I'm Felicia Shakiba, and this is CPO Playbook, where we solve a business challenge in every episode. Today we're diving into a topic that's both thrilling and unsettling: the rise of AI and its impact on the workforce. Joining me is Enrique Rubio, a global thought leader and founder of Hacking HR. Enrique has been at the forefront of helping organizations navigate rapid technological changes, and today we'll explore how companies can stay competitive in the age of AI, the challenges of adapting at lightning speed, and what it means for HR and the broader workforce. If you've ever wondered how to prepare for a future where AI could outpace your competition or even your workforce, this episode is for you. Enrique, thank you so much for coming, and welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me again. I'm excited to be here. Second time chatting about a topic that is the hottest topic, probably of the world of work and technology, and very likely of HR too. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Yes, well, we're excited to have you. So I wanted to start out with framing the problem. You've talked about AI moving at an almost unimaginable pace and companies needing to adapt faster than their competitors. So can you share an example of how this urgency is playing out in companies today?
Oh, absolutely. AI will change and is already changing everything. It will not impact one job. It will not impact one function. It will impact everything that we do, from the nature of the work that we do to the way we get that work done, the way we interact with each other, with our clients, internally in our companies. So every single job, every role, every function will be impacted by HR, by AI. Obviously, that includes HR as well. And obviously, in this world of behemoths of the technology space and the mom and pop shops or small mid-market companies, maybe they are not small, too small, but they are still small. The largest companies are getting ready very quickly. They are making decisions based on how they know that AI will impact them. For example, companies that are freezing hiring, companies that are already talking about developing AI employees, AI managers, AI super workers, AI engineers. And most companies are not those companies. 99% of all companies in America, and most likely 99.99% of all the companies in the world, are small to medium-sized organizations that generally are very busy with their ongoing operation. And you're adding something on top, another layer on that operation that is very complex, which is, number one, how can we get ready for AI? Meaning, how do we have to rethink our workforce strategy, talent management strategy, HR strategy, operational strategy, business strategies? How do we have to rethink about that? How do we get people ready fast enough to be able to say, if we need to embrace AI, this is how we will embrace it, and we gotta do that in an environment of very limited resources. So to me, the biggest problem here is not whether AI will impact our organizations or not, because it will, and it will impact everybody and everyone and every organization, is how fast we are able to get ready for that impact. And this AI revolution, in complete transparency, and as opposed perhaps to many revolutions in the past, where in the short term there were losses, of course, companies that shut down because the other ones that were embracing technology were moving faster, more efficiently, effectively. This AI revolution will leave a lot of casualties on the road. There will be a lot of losses on the road, and losses that we will not be able to pick back up fast enough. Because once, as a company, you're able to do maybe exactly what you're doing right now. Imagine that you don't even want to do more, exactly what you're doing right now, but you can do it 75% faster with AI, paying a lot less because you don't need to spend that much money in human capital, in FTEs, then probably your decision will be, I'm going to use AI or I'm going to use technology, and I don't need all these people doing this job. Those people who will probably lose their jobs, because they will, some of them will find jobs, but not all of them will find jobs. And the new jobs that we know will be created because of the existence of AI, those jobs may not be able to accommodate for everybody. So this is a very significant problem. It's a very significant opportunity as well, but it's a in the short term, I think it's going to become an incredible challenge for organizations. One which I don't think organizations can resolve alone. I think we will need government intervention, private sector, public sector, academia, nonprofits, everybody working together to understand impact, opportunities, and readiness. So that to me is sort of framing what's happening with the AI space right now.
And when you think about impact, opportunity, and readiness, this is kind of the questions that a lot of leaders are being faced with, and feeling overwhelmed, trying to kind of keep up with AI's advancements at the same time. So can you share how a company might, hesitate to act and really face the consequences, or one that embraced AI early and saw the transformative results? Like, how do companies get this right, or how are they getting it wrong by hesitating?
Yeah. Well, they're getting it completely wrong if they are hesitating. I mean, they don't have a choice anymore. Perhaps there have been other technologies where we had a choice, right? I mean, there are technologies that we talk, imagine, virtual reality, the metaverse, the virtual tokens that we have talked about in the past, right? A lot of those technologies still are in the radar, but they didn't impact organizations as much as we thought they would, right? I mean, just think about virtual reality. Virtual reality has been around for a long time, but it became a very big thing, maybe 10 years ago. And some companies did invest in, virtual reality tools and the goggles and the technology to do training and to do onboarding and to do all of these things. But not all companies jump on that boat, because what they thought was this technology is incredibly expensive. For it to become mainstream, it's going to have to go, pretty much 99% down in cost of operation, but also in cost of installation, in cost of development. And that didn't happen for all companies, and it actually didn't happen at all. That VR revolution that we talked about, probably around 10 years ago, AI is not that. AI is actually going to have a significant impact. First of all, because AI can be used anywhere, everywhere. It has an impact in every little thing that you do. If you are a doctor that works screening for cancer, breast cancer, in men and women, by the way, I don't know if you know that men do have breast cancer too. So in men and women, AI will have an impact in your job. If you are the HR person working in recruitment, and see how different these fields are, by the way, AI will have an impact in your job. If you are a software developer, AI already has an impact in your job, by the way. So already so many software developers are using AI to create the software for them and the coding for them, and all they do is review to make sure that it's all within the right parameters, right? So AI will impact everything, number one. Number two, the speed of development of AI is just like ridiculously fast. Like I have never seen anything like this, moving so quickly in the space of technology, right? So the speed at which we are seeing the improvements in the AI space. And number three, which is perhaps the one reason why some other technologies didn't become mainstream, is that the costs of AI are going down. The cost of development, the cost of implementation, the cost of learn how to use, all of those costs are coming down. So if you are hesitating because you hesitated before that VR was going to become a thing, that is not true for AI. So you should stop hesitating and understand that AI will have an impact in your work. Now, the one thing that I can understand, which can be very confusing, is, all right, you have a CEO listening to this now and saying, I agree, you convinced me, or I already knew this was going to be true. I think AI will have an impact in my work. I just don't know how, where, when, in what capacity, at what level. So that's the exercise that you got to do now with your own teams. Get your senior leadership together, get your managers together, put together working groups, bring external experts that can guide you in this journey. And your question is, I already know that AI in some way, maybe 1% of our entire operation, and I don't even think that's true, or 99% of our operation, but we don't know the answer to that. So let's bring everybody together, because I think by now, AI being so mainstream, everybody has heard something or is using AI in one way or another. Bring everybody to the table and make sure that you gain a very deep, but also incredibly wide understanding of how AI will impact or can impact your business today and also tomorrow. And that's going to set you up on a path, hopefully a path of action, where you say, all right, if I know that in the next 6 months, there could be an AI tool doing this, I'm not going to wait 6 months to train my people on how to use that tool or how to use that AI. I'm going to train them today, to get ready for when that tool exists, right? And if I know that there's already talk about developing an AI tool to do this one thing or that other thing, and it may happen in the next 1 year. So I'm going to get my people ready, maybe in 6 months from now, I don't know, whatever it is. But it is about understanding how AI will have an impact in your organization today and tomorrow and getting ready for that. And to be able to do all of that, you have to stop hesitating. You just have to act, and now, not later, but now.
We'll be right back. Back to the show. You mentioned that it's not just about keeping up with AI, right? But it's really about outpacing the competitors who are leveraging AI.
Yeah.
So how should companies determine their edge and move faster than the competition, not just faster in the pace of our context of the world using AI, but specifically, what should they be thinking about in regards to how they leverage AI to be competitive?
Yeah. I'm going to tell you a joke. I don't know if it's going to be funny, but it was shared by the National Park Service on their, they are very funny on their Instagram account. They post all this very fun stuff. And a long time ago, they posted something saying like, if you're hiking with a friend and a bear charges at you, you don't have to outrun the bear. You just have to outrun your friend.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm saying this because you won't be able to outrun AI. That's not going to happen, because you are most likely, you're not a company that is valued at $100 billion with $50 billion in the bank account to invest on AI. You will not outpace AI. That is not going to happen. You will outpace a company that doesn't know how to use AI, or is not using it properly, or even more, or even worse for those companies, they are hesitating. They are not getting ready fast enough to embrace the AI revolution. So, the first component that already puts you in a winning position is embracing the idea that AI will impact you, even if you don't know how. That doesn't matter. It will impact you. If you are if you have a bakery, on the corner, and you make cakes for people, you may say, AI will never make a cake for me. Yeah, but that may be true. But maybe AI can take all your orders for you, and then you can dedicate your time only to creating the cakes that you're doing for your clients. So you don't have to worry anymore about filing taxes, about taking orders, about customizing an order for your client. AI can do all of that for you. So that alone already puts you at an advantage versus the bakery next door, where the guy or the girl, they are like, AI, I don't even know what AI is, so I'm going to continue doing my cakes the way I'm doing it, right? So number one, you already are in a position of potentially winning if you understand that AI will impact you no matter what, even if you don't know how. So the second thing, of course, is what I said before. You start understanding what the impact may be. Once you start understanding what the impact may be, you have to act on that. You can't think that you will outpace or outrun AI. That is not going to happen. But you just have to look around in your competitors' landscape and think, what are these guys doing to get ready for AI? Maybe none of them is getting ready for AI. Maybe that gives me an opportunity to say, how is it that we can use AI to outcompete our competitors in whatever they are either outcompeting us right now, or where we have an edge on them, but it's an edge that is, you know, a marginal edge, so to speak, right? And that marginal edge can become a lot larger if you leverage AI to be able to expand it and become, make it a better, stronger edge over those competitors. Again, one, believe that AI will impact you, find out how it's going to impact you, analyze your competitors' landscape, see what they're doing with AI, what they are not doing with AI, what your edge already is, and find out the opportunities that AI gives you to go faster, better, providing better customer experience, hiring better people. Those things already will have a significant impact on your business. And if your competitors are not doing that, by the time they realize, hey, the bakery next door is using AI to take, customers, you're far gone. I mean, you are far gone from them. So that's the beginning.
Well, I think what you're saying is we need to be strategic about the way we use AI. And by looking at like our own process as an organization and what our strengths, almost like a SWOT analysis, and look at how we function in comparison to our competitors. And I want to focus a little bit on maybe HR's role or like the organizational role in leveraging AI for their people. And when I think about that, I think about reskilling, because reskilling is often mentioned as a solution, but it's such a broad term. And I was wondering, can you really break this down for us? Like, what does effective reskilling look like? And do you have an example of a company or an industry that's doing it well?
Yeah, good question. So I'm going to begin by saying that reskilling is not the first stage in which you should engage yourself, right? Because you don't know what you need to reskill your people on. That's the first question that you need to ask.
Right. You have to do that assessment, right? Yeah.
You have to begin from the beginning. And the beginning is you got to understand what it is that you need to be reskilling your people on, what skills they need, what skills they have, if somebody else has them in the organization. So you begin assessing, if we're talking about AI in particular, and it's not just AI. I mean, there are a million other things happening in the world right now. AI is one of them. So, but if you're thinking about AI, the first thing that you need to do obviously is assess. So you begin with your baseline. What do we do right now? What do we have right now? Let's deconstruct every single thing. If you're an HR leader, take have a big table or a conference room, bring your people together, put on the table all the processes that you're running right now, deconstruct them all down to its fundamental components. So if you're doing learning and development, if you're doing performance management, if you're doing onboarding, recruitment, compensation, deconstruct every single thing to its fundamental components so that you can understand and say, all right, in the short term, of all of these components that we just deconstructed, and we created some connections in between them. So there may be, I don't think any HR department has ever done this exercise, by the way, and now it's a great time to do it. So maybe you start finding some correlations, maybe you start finding some redundancies, maybe you start finding some connections in between tasks in each of the processes that you have in place once you have deconstructed that, right? And then you identify them. Then you identify the ones that are boring, transactional, sometimes necessarily but meaningless, disconnected from a larger purpose, but that you still have to do, meaning some transactional tasks, perhaps, that are time sinks, meaning they take time, but they are not really that important. And then you think about, all right, what AI tools are out there that can do these processes? All right, so you find out that of all the deconstructed processes, there are 10 tasks that can be done by AI. Let me give you some very mundane examples. Scheduling, writing job postings, creating personalized communications for hiring managers, interview panels, all of this, whatever it is. So you do that, all of that with technology, and then you find out that there's a core number of fundamental pieces that, as of now, can't be done. That doesn't mean that they won't be done tomorrow by technology, but right now they can't be done by technology. So you double down on those areas, and then you say, all right, of these areas, do we have the right capabilities to be able to do more of these core components that technology can't do? And if the answer is yes, awesome, continue doing what you're doing. But most likely the answer will be no. I mean, of the 100% of our time, we were doing 50% of that will be done now by technology, and 50% of this core component. And I don't even think is that ratio, by the way. I think it's more transactional and less, human only kind of components, right? But once you do that exercise, you will determine that there are things that you need to double down on that can only be done by humans as of now, and areas where you can start investing learning and development money to skill people to do that better. That's going to give you, once again, an edge, especially versus those companies that are not doing this using AI. Because while they are still going to Microsoft Outlook to schedule all the calendar invites, to send out to people for recruitment, you are just talking to an AI system saying, send an invite to Felicia, send an invite to Enrique, send an invite to whoever, connect everybody, bring us together, and that's it. In 1 minute, you will have done that versus them, spending all this time doing those transactional processes, right? So that's the beginning. And this is true for all functions, that deconstruction of processes to its fundamental components to determine which ones are the ones that can be done by technology and which ones are the ones that only can be done by humans today, and the ones on which you have to double down and you may not have all the skills to be able to do that. That's where that's where your reskilling is. So then you add another layer, and this is where you can bring AI to. The next layer that you add is, where is our industry going? Because we may be investing a lot on these core components, but maybe they are taking us in the wrong direction from the direction in which our industry is going. So you gotta normalize this deconstruction process, adding the layer of, this is the direction of our industry. So that's going to filter and say, of the transactional things that can be done by technology and the core human components that can be done by technology, there are 20% of them that are taking us away from the direction in which our industry is going. So we need to get rid of those things or phase them out so that we can start including the new things that are taking us in the direction of our company. That gives you another data point for reskilling and upskilling. So that's the way you should try to develop this idea of skilling and reskilling.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right when we talk about focusing on the industry and kind of where industry is going, and then backing up into the strategy of how to leverage AI in a way that's more meaningful for how we work and what we need to work on, as employees and as basically part of the company, right? I want to kind of shift our thinking into understanding what examples of companies or industries who are maybe leveraging AI to create new opportunities and stay ahead of the curve. Like what are companies doing today specifically that you can share on how they're being competitive?
Yeah. Well, without getting necessarily into the details of which companies, I mean, obviously the technology sector is fully embracing AI. Companies whose livelihood and competitiveness depends on having a strong software development teams. These companies are now and going into the future will continue to create their own AI software development workforce. That workforce will be probably managed by some humans, but not all the humans that are doing this work right now. So that means that one of the crown jewels of the workforce, which has been software development, for the longest time, we've always said software developers are one of the safest jobs and the most sought out jobs in the market. That is not going to be true, in the next few months to years, right? Because if you can do what they do at a faster rate and at a lower error rate and cheaper with AI, and all you got to do is you take a team of 100 developers and you bring that down to 10, where these 10 developers become AI managers of AI workers. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious what decision a company will make. So some of those companies are already doing that. Some of those companies are investing in this kind of capabilities, right? You have companies that are doing in the healthcare sector. This is a little bit more sensitive, given what's happening in the healthcare sector. I recently read, United Health using AI, 90% error rate, the horrendous, price search on medication for cancer patients. I am hoping that we don't use AI in that way, but AI can save so much in administrative costs. Imagine all that screening that you go through when you go to an ER, to a urgent care, whatever it is, all that screening, all that setup process for any patient done by AI properly, obviously, which again, this is when we need government, a good government, to regulate how this works, right? To not allow those companies to just do whatever the hell they want with AI, but to be in some ways regulated. Those are two examples of companies that are already actually using AI in this direction. There may be a million other ways in which they're using AI, because AI is not new, by the way. Generative AI is newer, but AI is not new. AI has been around for a long time. So, but these are some sectors that are using AI in this way.
We'll be right back. Back to the show. For the smaller companies or those with more limited resources, the thought of competing with AI giants like Amazon or OpenAI, I'm sure that can probably feel very daunting to them. So what's your advice to these organizations, these smaller businesses, for staying relevant and competitive when we are trying to compete with these giant organizations?
Very good question. Double down in who you are. There are people who would rather pay 10, 20% more on the local shop in downtown than paying less, faster on Amazon.
But why is that? Why is that?
Because they want to support their local business. They know who they're talking to. They know what they stand for. They know what they are supporting. Not to get too political, right? But, you got to be very clear about what you stand for. If you are a shitty company that is dismantling your DEI programs just to align yourself to, the new administration, I'm really hoping that people one day say, I'm not buying anything else from you anymore. I'm going to go down the shop on the corner. Yeah, it's going to be a little more expensive. And, well, maybe I'm not going to have that much money to buy the next thing next month, but that's the one that I choose to support. So double down on who you really are, because I think we're going to need a lot of authenticity in the next few years, particularly in America. In the next 4 years, we're going to need a lot more authentic companies to say, I stand for this. I stand for small businesses. I pay my taxes, and I'm proud of paying my taxes because my street is clean, because I'm paying my taxes, and I stand for, love and kindness and compassion and inclusion. If that's what you stand for, there are other companies that may stand for the exact opposite to that, and they still get their clients. I am sure that those companies will have to also stand for what they stand for, as awful as that may be. Stand for, make sure that you have a clear purpose, that you tell people and communicate very clearly what it is that you are, what makes you different. Because at the end of the day, yes, Amazon and all these companies, it's very convenient, but at the end of the day, people also make choices based on values and principles. And if they are clear about who you are and what it is that you support, they will do it. They will do it. Am I saying that it's going to be everybody? Probably not. That's never going to happen. But here they are. All of these companies, Amazon, Google, Facebook, all of these companies have been around for a long time, and still 99% of all employees right now work in small to medium-sized organizations. So, they are going to become more effective and efficient, and they're going to become faster. But ultimately, their mandate is profit, and that's their only mandate. And very often, they are like a steamroller. Whatever comes on the way, they just break it apart, because profit is the mandate. If you're a small company, care for your community, care for your people, care for your city. Vote for the right people. Support the right causes in your community, because you're gonna get that back. We have already seen it. We have already seen that happening. So I'm hoping that we double down on that.
And so essentially you're saying, yes, these other giant companies are going to leverage AI effectively and probably more effectively, but the small or medium-sized businesses, the local businesses, it's really about telling your story and making sure that people want to come and purchase from you because of who you are and what you stand for and what the values are. And so as much as we are leveraging and thinking about ways of using AI, we should equally be thinking about how we tell our story and what we stand for.
Yes. And this is why, if you think that only relying on AI will make you in any way a relevant competitor to these companies, you're already done. You're lost. You will never be able to compete with these companies. That's not going to happen. To create a company like Facebook or Amazon or Microsoft or Google, that doesn't happen overnight, unless you discover something ridiculously valuable. But that is a miracle, to be honest. Even Bill Gates, when he was asked, how do you do this? He said, I just had good luck. And that may be true. Back in the time when he created Microsoft, there were a lot of companies doing the same thing that he was doing. He was just, maybe a little smarter and a little luckier. But at the end of the day, just on the AI front, if you think that alone will be your only differentiator versus these big companies, you're losing already, because that's not going to happen. You won't be, they have more people, more resources, like almost infinite resources compared to you. They can throw $10 billion at one problem, and you can probably barely pay, the taxes for every year. So that's not how you compete with them. Now you leverage AI to become better, more efficient, more productive, provide better customer service, to make sure that your values are properly communicated. So you still have to leverage AI. You cannot leave that conversation, on the side. You still leverage AI, but you double down also on values, culture, who you are, what you stand for, what you support, and you are present in your community. Because once again, yeah, we all live in cities and whatnot, but people want those companies that stand for something that impacts them positively. So ultimately, when one of those massive companies comes down the road and then you're the small one, you're like, well, yeah, we're both using AI, but I have invested, thousands of dollars in the past few years on educational programs locally here in my community. I have supported this and that cause. We clean the beach in the, or the street or the forest. We supported our firefighters. I don't know what it is, right? But be present in that way. AI will just make you more efficient, but that doesn't mean that you are a better company for that. You may be making more money, but that, will that alone be enough to compete with these behemoths out there? No, because as much money as you can make, it's not going to be enough to compete with them.
It's funny. You make me think of something that happened to me the other day. So I order my groceries online, and it's a fantastic way to shop. And like I used to be able to look at the groceries, and maybe I got like something spoiled. I said, this is spoiled. I'm not going to eat it. It was easy for me to return. It's changed. And now I will get spoiled groceries sometimes, one or two items, and I go online to return it and I can't do it. And I think to myself, I'm not going to pay for something that this is like a horrible customer experience.
Yeah.
And when I think about kind of going down to like the local store, I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to pick it out myself, because I know that if I go to my local community and I see the people who are selling an apple or whatnot, I'm going to get a good apple guaranteed every time. Right. So it's kind of like this fight between possible bad apples and always fresh apples. Do you know what I'm saying?
Inconvenient with apples.
Right. It's just like the customer or the client experience is either guaranteed, with your local community shop, or may not be what you're looking for when you're dealing with someone that's not human 100% of the time. So it's just an interesting thought that I had when you were talking, because that is really the difference.
I can, it's not that I buy in the local stores all the time. I don't think anybody does these days. There's a component of convenience. If I'm working, here on my computer, and by sheer coincidence, I realize, oh my gosh, I don't have, chapstick anymore. I know I'm gonna forget when I go to the store, so I just go to Amazon and I go on chapstick.
Right.
And in a couple of days, I have 3 chapsticks in my door. So convenient. But that doesn't mean that that you would not value the local shops that are in your town. The local restaurants, the local small shops, the local companies that can do something for you. And by the way, some larger companies do stand for the community. I love Costco, for example. I wouldn't have a Costco where I live, so I don't use Costco. I live in a small town, Flagstaff. So Costco said to their shareholders, we are keeping the AI, whether you like it or not. This is the right thing to do for the business to begin with. It's making us more money, but it's also the right thing to do for the people. So you go to Costco and you know that, well, maybe not everything they stand for is something that you can agree with, but maybe there's something that you cling on and you say, this is the right thing. Ben and Jerry's, company that for so long has been in the forefront of social justice and equity, in society, right? You're going to buy an ice cream, who do you want to buy? The guys that don't care what they are putting in your ice cream, or the guys that are putting, the most organic kind of components while also having.
Right, they're cutting the strawberries for your ice cream.
They are having the right kind of impact and the right kind of thinking. So it's not just that the companies are locally; it's that you know what they stand for. Um, especially these days, you gotta know, who you are supporting at the end of the day, right? Because if you don't stand for something, again, believe me, I'm not preaching to the choir here. I'm not saying that I don't buy from Amazon as much as I dislike the recent, political stance that their founder took, right? Uh, Complete shift, by the way, from the way he was before. Not surprisingly. I mean, I think there's a difference between, believing in something because you believe it's the right thing and believing in something because it gives you utilitarian value, and these are completely different things. Because if you have your principles, you go that way, whether it pays off to you or not. But if it's utilitarian value, as in money, profit, whatever, then you can switch directions, to the next thing that's going to make you more money. But, going back to the conversation on AI that we were having before, again, every company, every leader, every person should be thinking about using AI. There's no doubt in there. You won't be able to compete the big ones, but you can make sure that you're saying, I'm using AI, I am more effective, I am more efficient, but I am doubling down on the things that make me a unique company. I am investing on my people. I'm still hiring people. I am reskilling the ones that I want to avoid having to fire, if AI ends up doing their job. Those are the companies that you want to have around, that you want to support. And that's a company that you want to be, by the way.
Most people need to be reskilled to learn how to leverage AI. This is a new tool that everybody eventually will touch at some point, in their career and in their day-to-day. So I think that there's going to be a lot more of that. As soon as organizations figure out how to leverage it properly, right? They're still kind of going through the strategic decision making. Many of them have moved forward, but I think we're all in different places as organizations. I want to ask you one final question, which is really for the leaders who might be listening. What are 3 actionable steps that they can take today to really start preparing their organizations and themselves for AI this year?
This should be already taken. We should be taking this for granted, as in there should not be anybody out there who wouldn't think that AI will have an impact on them in one way or another, in life and work, by the way, and everything in between. But there are people still who don't believe that this is going to happen to them, right? There are people who feel safer, who think that their companies will be impacted, whatnot. So your first action item is sit down, do a couple of ratings, and start believing that AI will have an impact on your organization, on your people, on yourself as a leader, so that you can start acting, right? Once if you don't believe it, you don't act. Once you believe it, you start acting. So number 1. Number 2, because most likely if you are in a place where you have just transitioned from not accepting that AI will have an impact on you to now realizing that it will actually have an impact on you, most likely your immediate next place will be a place of ignorance, as in, okay, I believe that this will happen. I just don't know how it will happen to us. Bring your people together. Somebody in your company must be curious enough to be reading about AI. One person has to know something, right? And that may become the beginning of the beginning. So bring your people together. Make sure that they like you have an open conversation. Just begin by saying AI will impact us. How? How do we envision that this will happen to us? No, so you bring an external consultant that can help you, but begin with your people because that's already enough talent in there to at least kick off the conversation. And number three, of course, once you have that conversation and you determine this is how we think it's going to impact us in the short and long term, short, medium, and long term, start acting on it. Now I start saying, if we determine and identified that there are some areas where we are very certain that our company, our industry will be impacted by AI, invest the resources that you need to invest in order to get ready. Because whether you do it or not, somebody else is actually getting ready for that. So you don't want them to outcompete you. You want to be ready. So believe it, analyze it, and act on it.
The other thing that I wanted to say was that we have done a lot of reskilling at CPO Playbook for our clients, but I think that before you even get there, it's really important for organizations to understand what their blueprint is for their people, right? Who are the managers, the senior managers? I mean, most times clients will come and they'll say, we want to reskill. And I'll say, who do you want to reskill? And they'll say, well, we want our managers or senior managers, but this person is kind of a manager, but they might not be in that role yet. That all of that needs to have clear, so everyone needs clarity in their role, and a very clear direction in order to understand who we're reskilling, when we're reskilling them, and what exactly about that reskillability that they need that's going to support their long-term vision. So there's a lot that goes behind it, but I agree with you, Enrique, that is really where I think the future is going to be this year.
Yeah. And what you just said is critical because it is not the economy that fires people. In 2022, all the layoffs in the technology sector, right? I keep saying HR here and there. All the layoffs that happened in the technology sector, it was not because of the economy. It was because of the CEOs.
Yes.
They made a mistake.
I hate to say it, but it's true.
Oh no, it is the truth. And by the way, we have become so numb to what these people say that it's just like we hear them say and accept blame, and it's just like we don't care. They said we became fat after COVID. The government put so much money out on the street. We started hiring all these people knowing that they were going to run out of that money. They knew that they were going to run out of that money at some point. And, like nobody can put $2 trillion a year in the market every year. That doesn't happen anywhere. They knew that, faucet of money was was going to stop. And still they decided to get fat. They hired all these people. They expanded all these service lines. They expanded all these new things that they were doing. They became bigger and bigger and bigger, knowing that they were not getting ready for the moment that money would stop running. And in fact, it stopped running. And what did they do? Knowing from the beginning that that money was not going to last forever, they started firing people. They started shutting down lines of business. They started firing people that they thought helped them go through some transition, and then they used them and they didn't need them anymore. So I'm saying this is a very extreme case, by the way. But what I'm saying is that when you don't get ready and you're faced and confronting the reality right up your nose, then you have to make decisions very quickly, most likely to save your business. I wish it was just to save the business, but some of them made a lot of money, by the way. But if it was just to save the business and you're confronted with reality, generally, for most companies, the most immediate thing to do is fire people. Just let them go, right? But if you had gotten ready for that over time, then you know that if that can happen, next year or whatever, that there's a possibility of a, recession, or there's a possibility of a little bit of a market downturn. You know how that may impact you. You start getting ready for that today, so that the impact on the people, and on your business, but especially on the people, is not as severe as if you were confronted with a reality that you may have known what's going to happen, but you never got ready for it. So I think that is so deeply irresponsible for those companies. And more importantly, I feel that the government has failed society when they allow companies to just walk away with something like this, firing thousands of people just because they didn't get ready on time, knowing what they knew was going to happen. Anyway,
we have an episode with Alex Saylor about the relationship between the CEO and the CPO, which is the Chief People Officer. And for anybody who's listening, you should really go listen to that episode because it is painting the picture of what could happen, right, when you don't have that close relationship with your strategic people leader. If you don't have, if you're not in lockstep of understanding the future of your workforce and really doing that workforce planning exercise, it's going to turn out, the way you're saying, Enrique. It's going to turn out to the point where leaders are going to be blamed because they didn't think ahead and they didn't marry their people strategy with the future of their business and where they're going. So I understand like a little bit because, nobody really knew when COVID was going to stop and nobody really understood exactly what was going to happen. And there is a lot of ambiguity there. So, there are, companies where leaders just, they made the wrong decision or, they didn't mean to, but preventative measures can happen when you have a very strong strategic HR leader or people leader that can help you identify how to make those better, more strategic decisions for your business. And you don't have to go through that much turmoil, with the people in your business. So, and you look like a better employer, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it's about caring, right? I mean, I think I'm not saying that some of these companies didn't care, but I am saying that some of them actually didn't. When it came to making the tough choices were not. Some small companies did, by the way. At the beginning of COVID, I remember small companies, and not so small. I remember Airbnb, for example, cutting a significant amount of all executive pay so that they could keep their workforce working. They did laid off 25% of their workforce. And I don't know if you remember the letter from Brian Chesky explaining what was happening and why they were doing what they were doing. It is a testament of kindness and compassion. I mean, it sucks. They had to make a business decision, but it was not just let's fire people and don't care about them, right? Some of the companies had to cut, executive payment, bonuses, all of this, shareholder, shares, you call it whatever you want to call it, in all with the objective in mind of preserving as much as they could the opportunities for people who were already working in those companies. They didn't want to fire anybody, but not all companies are like that. So I salute the companies that are doing the right thing, the companies that are purposefully doing the wrong thing or just finding the first scapegoat, which is firing people when they're going through a little bit of a turmoil. If they knew that this was going to happen, well, shame on them. If they didn't know, well, you know now that you have to get ready for the AI revolution, which will impact your organization and your workforce. So there's no excuse anymore. There really isn't.
Right. And if you need more help, call CPO Playbook.
There you go. You got the good people helping you out.
Exactly. Well, Enrique, it's a pleasure to have you back on the show. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm excited to connect with you again and learn more.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me again. This is a great conversation. Thank you.
If today's episode captured your interest, please consider sharing it with a friend and leaving a review. To learn more about how CPO Playbook can support you or a leader you know with executive coaching or organizational transformation, visit us at cpoplaybook.com. Your support as a subscriber means the world to us, so thank you for tuning in. I'm Felicia Shakiba. Let's connect on LinkedIn. See you next Wednesday.